It's oftentimes that we see women over giving, especially with money and with love and with time. Culturally, we are raised to overgive and put others first. That's how we survived back in the day. So with our money, I think it's so important that we prioritize ourselves.
Welcome to Money Musings, a podcast that breaks down money, investing, and wealth with zero BS and unapologetic irreverence. I'm your host and money co-conspirator, Stephanie Zenos. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to this episode where I answer your questions about love and money. This episode's a little different. I'm in my bed. I'm not using my mic. I'm on a self-imposed deadline to do a certain number of podcast episodes and a certain number of course modules for my advanced investing mastermind inner circle. And this is just what it's going to take for me to get it done today. So we submitted to Instagram and to our email list if anyone had questions around love and money or anything that kind of touches those two realms. And so I have some banging questions for you guys. The first question was, how do you navigate money conversations with a partner when you have completely different risk tolerances or investment philosophies? And how do you know when it's time to just agree to manage things separately? This is a great question. I think every single person comes into this world with really different ideas about money and maybe even different goals about money. And so if you're trying to manage money with a partner and you have very different ideas and goals, your money is probably going to look really different. And even risk tolerance. If one person is like really excited about taking on risk and actually wants to be involved in their investments on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, and the other person wants to set it and forget it, like honestly, that's totally okay. It's totally fine for you guys to both know about investments and make different choices on what to invest in. The only place where I would say it makes sense to really get on the same page is if you are saving for a specific goal together. If you want to buy a house together, if you want to have a baby, if you want to retire at the same time, that's the point where it does actually make sense to look at the timeline and maybe invest respectively. Because if you are putting your money in individual stocks and you're hoping that you're going to make a bunch of money and you want to buy a house next year, like that's super risky and maybe not a great idea. So, there's different things like that. But ultimately, I think two people managing their money separately and having different strategies is totally okay. I do advocate for like being in communication about that and being honest with your partner about what you're doing and hopefully like being able to come up with some goals together. I think a shared money goal goes a long way. So if you guys have any life goals or money goals that you can create together and then back out a plan together, that's what I would say to do. Okay, I fucking love this next question. How do you know the difference between intuition telling you something's off versus old fear patterns firing up? This is such a good question as it pertains to money because, again, we have all of these like money stories, money wounds, things that we saw in childhood, things that we picked up along the way that we just believe are true for so long until they're examined. And oftentimes I find that when a money wound is coming up and we're having an experience with money that's emotional, it's most often either fear, which leads to avoidance, or fear that leads to like anxiety and anxious attachment, over checking. And either one of those is rooted kind of in fear. Now, if intuition is telling you something's off, I feel like it's going to be a lot softer emotional experience. It's going to be almost like a knowing. And maybe that's a personal thing. Like mine is more of like a knowing. I just know something. But for me, it's more of like, it feels steadfast. It doesn't feel urgent. I think that's a big part. It doesn't feel urgent when it's my intuition telling me that something's off. It's just like, ooh, something's off. It like feels like a little tinge of like mystery coming in versus like full on fear. If it's full on fear and panic, that I know is usually something to do with my somatic body having an experience based on past issues. Okay, next question. Honestly, as I'm reading these, I'm like, you guys are so cool. So this one says, I hear a lot about how you talk to yourself about money or what you tell yourself about money impacts how much wealth you actually have. Is that true? Okay, well, I would say partially true, maybe even mostly true. If you're telling yourself, even if it's not with words, if you just have a belief that like you have to work super hard for money, everything has to be like blood, sweat, and tears in order to get it, or, if you don't work hard, you won't ever make money, or the only things worth doing are the things that are hard. All of these stories that we tell ourselves really do dictate the things that we allow ourselves to receive. So if you tell yourself that like any job that seems too easy isn't going to be really aligned and isn't really going to do well, or is there something wrong with it, then if you go in an interview and you get a job offer for like an amazing amount of money, you might end up rejecting it because you don't trust it. You don't trust your ability to have that money. If you don't think you are capable of stewarding wealth on some level because you don't have the education, or you don't have the disposition, or you have too much fear, or you have stories, like, you're going to find a way to not be wealthy. You're going to find a way to get rid of your money one way or the other. And whether that means just sitting on it in savings and not letting it grow, or whether that means actually spending it or losing it or doing something to just get rid of it somehow, I absolutely believe that. So if you're telling yourself like, I'm not capable of having money, or you just don't believe that you are, I do think you'll find a way to sabotage yourself. And that's why like money stories are so important, and our money wounds are so important when it comes to actually building money and wealth. Okay, another really good one. How do you practice generosity with money in a way that doesn't deplete you, especially if you're inclined to give or overgive? Now, this is a woman's problem, isn't it? I mean, I think whenever we talk about money and women, the main thing that we see is women overgiving. Women saving for their kids' college before they have their own retirement. Women spending their money on their kids. Women giving to family members when they are kind of strapped for cash. It's oftentimes that we see women overgiving, especially with money and with love and with time and with a lot of things. Many of us have a tendency to overgive. Not that it's just women, but like women in particular, I think culturally we are raised to overgive and put others first. Like that's how we survive in like the group dynamic back in the day, right? So with our money, I think it's so important that we prioritize ourselves. Even just yesterday, I was having a conversation with a new woman in Topanga Canyon where I'm like, you've been burning it out for everyone else and you haven't even been getting paid to do that work. Like that's not okay. It's not okay to be out there in the world providing value and energy without an equitable exchange. Like fuck that. So even within your own family units, right? Like of course, there's going to be times where you're over giving to your kids or your partners, but like there has to be balance over the long term. If you're just overgiving and overgiving, that's going to lead to resentment or burnout or just depression. So for me, the way that I am able to give in a way that doesn't deplete me is I have slowly but surely looked through all of my money stories and tried to remove any blocks that bring up scarcity with giving, and also have to do with wounding around my self-worth with receiving. So it's basically about creating an open channel. And I feel like this comes up on every episode recently, but money is flowing in and out without resistance. When I'm like paying bills, if I ever catch myself getting pissed off about paying for something, I will like have myself say in my head, like, thank you, Bill, or like, thank you for providing me with electricity, even though goddamn, $400, that doesn't seem right. I will force myself to say that in my head because it really does move the needle and it really does unlock something that is feeling more generous rather than like giving something away that I don't want to. So I hope that helps with that question. Okay, another money and energy question. I guess I said money and love, but here we go, money and energy. So what does it mean to see money as energy that it's meant to circulate? How does that change how you make decisions? So if money is circulating, like I said, it's going out one hand without fear and with generosity, and it's coming in the other hand with full self-worth and deservingness, so we're like an open channel with it flowing, how would that influence my decisions? Well, I think if I did get fear around giving someone money, whether that was supporting a cause that I care about or paying for something that I need for my house, I would use that tool, like I said, where I say like, thank you, Bill, or like, thank you for whatever this thing is. Thank you for the opportunity. I also remind myself anytime I'm giving generously that like, that will come back to me with greater measure. I do believe that anytime we let something go, whether that's a partner or a job or money, like we will be rewarded if we do it with generosity and like kindness of spirit. So in my mind, if I'm letting money go out one hand and it's a little bit like, oh gosh, am I going to get it back? I just tell myself like, I'm going to get this back and have even more money to give in the future. I have to believe and trust that the universe or God or whatever you believe is going to provide for me, and I generally do. I have my moments. I get scared too, like I am a human being after all. But when I'm giving, I'm just like, this is going to come back to me sixfold. This is going to do so much better for this person or organization than I could do it for myself. And that is because I am fully resourced. I have what I need. I'm like overflowing and abundant and generous. And I'm also able to receive on the other side. If someone says to me like, hey, I'm really interested in your services, I don't go like, oh, I'll teach you everything I know for free. I'm like, amazing. I have so many programs. We have excellent returns on investment. Like our reviews are cuckoo bananas. Like, please, I welcome you to join these programs that will allow us to support you on your path. And I'm so welcoming of that now. But I used to be scared about charging for my services. And now I feel so deserving because I know the impact that it has on people's lives and how much more money they will make. It'll be like 6-10-fold for them, maybe much more, maybe millions of dollars. So it's the exact same cycle that I go through on the way out that these women are going through on the way out when they invest in me. And I am so sure that they're going to get a return. So I can just like open and use my tools and be like, this is going to be so good for them. And the only way that something won't be good for someone is if they somehow block themselves. So the more we can do this and the more we can trust, I think the better we'll get at circulating our wealth in this way. Okay, next question. How do you measure the return on an investment when it's not just financial, when it's about alignment, energy, or values? Okay, so I'm going to give an example. One thing that women ask me all the time is like, I want to invest, I want to like make my money work for me, but I don't want to invest in bad things. I don't want to invest in oil companies, or I don't want to invest in this, that, or the other thing because of this personal preference. And I totally get that. The way that I see things like that, when you're in your beginning stages of investing, I think it makes more sense to learn about investing and to deploy your investments in a broad-based fashion and not get too granular. As you build your wealth, as you have more flexibility and freedom and time, you can then learn more about investing and start to be more choosy about where you're putting your money. But in the beginning, like the point is to make you some money to get you security. So here we are again with like getting your oxygen mask on before helping others. I love that you want to invest in things that are in line with your values, but like get yourself covered first. Now, there's always going to be other intrinsic motivators with investments we make, whether it is in the stock market or like individual companies, because maybe we love the CEO or we love that there's women on the board or whatever it is, or maybe it's just investing directly in projects. As long as you have your financial foundation and your basics covered, if you want to invest more in line with your values, like so be it. One example is my business. I've invested a lot of money into my business. And not all of that has gotten me a good return. Some of it has been like, oh shit, I'm in the hole. But it is also my like dharmic thing to have this business and to be spreading this message to other women. And so for me, that's how I was able to evaluate that. Now, if I didn't have enough money to survive, I hope to God I wouldn't make that choice. I don't want a woman lighting herself on fire to keep other people warm when she's not in a position to do so. It's different for me to spend $100,000 and lose it on my business than someone who's actively trying to work towards just having financial sovereignty. Financial sovereignty is like you are safe. You have savings if something goes awry. Please do not sacrifice yourself at that point. But later, if you want to learn more and get into the nitty-gritty and start investing in line with your values, like I really do think that that's something to do once you at least can check the box of like, I'm okay, I'm safe if something happens to me. So that's the way that I look at that. Okay, here's some dating questions. Love it. So the first one is, what's the right time to have the money talk with someone you're dating? Well, I don't know what the money talk is, but if I was dating someone, I think I would start talking about money pretty soon. And of course, it really depends on your situation, but in every situation, I think at least like having those conversations come up and start talking about your goals or what you're doing at a high level. Like, yeah, I am saving for a down payment for a house because that's really a priority of mine. Or yeah, you know, my last car, I actually paid for it in cash because I didn't want to have the thing on my credit. Or yeah, I actually saved up for a down payment on my car so that I could get a better deal on the financing, like whatever it is, putting in little examples. I don't think it's like ever too early to start saying things like that. I wouldn't be like, hey, what's your credit score on your first date? And be like, yeah, like, do you have debt? What's your net worth? Oh my God. Yeah, save that for later. I would say once you're like in a committed partnership and you think that there's a future, that would be the time to start having a little bit deeper money conversations. And please God, before you get engaged, like make sure you know what's going on with that person's finances. You don't want to have a surprise later. Even if you're so deeply in love, if you find out later that the person's in massive amounts of debt or has like sketchy behavior with credit or gambling, you have to find that out, I would say. it's important to me because it's important to your safety. And even if it's just psychological safety, it's still really important. Okay, more dating ones. What financial red flags should you watch out for early in a relationship? Early in a relationship, I would be looking for like triggers and trauma around money. Not that I didn't come from a background of trauma around money, but like I want to know that if someone has those triggers, that they know how to process them and that they've been like working on that. So things that I would look for, if I brought something up about money and that person just completely ignored it or just like didn't respond, I would say, oh, this is interesting. Maybe they have like some avoidant attachment with money, or they don't want to look at it, or like they're afraid, or they feel like they don't know how to do it. And also if I brought something up and a person had kind of like a strong reaction, a more like anxious or fear or like negative or even like angry, that would also be really good information to have, you know. So how does someone kind of come to conversations about money? Do they ignore you when you say it? Do they get amped up, or do they just have like a normal healthy dialogue? I mean, that's something that I don't want to say test, but like something I would bring up and really collect the data on as I'm dating someone in the early days. I would look for like risky behavior in other parts of life too, like not just money. If someone loves jumping off cliffs, I did date someone who was like a free diver or something, where you like jump off a cliff with a parachute. Anyway, so like risky behavior in other parts of their life might indicate risky behavior with their money, which like personally, I don't want to get anywhere near that. So, you know, if they're like day trading, that's a money thing, obviously, or like using leverage, if they're like, I'm trading options, I mean, no, thank you. Get out of here. That's me personally. And again, like risky behavior. Any kind of like taking on risk when you really don't need to, especially if they talk about money in like an entertaining way, you know, like, oh, this is so fun to like be gambling, or I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that I wouldn't be comfortable with. Obviously, everyone has to have their own list. Who pays on dates, and does it actually matter? Oh my God. I mean, my answer to this has probably changed in just the last couple of years, but I would say like my position with masculine and feminine and money is like, to me, I want to be well resourced on my own because it allows me to show up in the best possible way in a relationship, whether that's romantic, friend, family, whatever it is. I want to be so fucking resourced that I am unshakable. And then in a romantic relationship, I would love if the person that I'm with has the desire to provide for me, because they have that like provision mentality. They want to provide for me. They want to make my life easier. They want to make my life better. They want to take care of me. Not that I need to be taken care of. I got my shit covered. But the desire, I think, is really delightful and masculine and juicy. And so for me, absolutely, I would have someone paying on the first date. I wouldn't fight them to be like, oh no, I'll pay for it. No. 5 years ago, absolutely. I remember myself actually paying for my own food and drinks on dates 5 years ago. You would not find me doing that now. So that's a personal opinion, but I do feel like that first date scenario is a really good indication of like how it's going to be with money in the future. Are they going to be like, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours? Is it going to be like, what's yours is yours, what's mine is ours? These are important things to pay attention to if that's what you desire in a relationship. Like if you want someone to want to take care of you, even if you don't need it. And to me, that's the sexiest combination. Like, I don't think it's sexy for a man to not want to take care of me. I don't think it's sexy for me not to be able to take care of myself. The only scenario that's hot to me is being able to take care of myself and having a partner that wants to take care of me. So, end of discussion, period, for me. How should you handle it when you out-earn your partner? I would love to say that this doesn't matter, but in my experience, it does. I can use myself as an example here and just say that there is a certain amount of tension that is created when I have a lot more wealth or income than my partner. It just makes things harder, I think, to maintain kind of a masculine feminine frame if that's what you desire. But on like a normal level, like it doesn't fucking matter. It's both. And it kind of depends on your orientation and what you're trying to build in the structure of your relationship. So one thing that I love the idea of in my own relationship is I desire to have my man pay for my safety related expenses. I love to be taken care of in that way. So like if a man's paying my bills, wonderful. What I want to pay for in the relationship is like I get excited about the idea of like, oh my gosh, what if we go to Madagascar? Like, I'm going to plan this whole trip. I'm going to get the flights. I'm going to get the hotel. I'm going to have like this fancy chef thing in our room as like part of the experience. We're going to go on safari. I love the idea of paying for things that bring me just like absolute delight and joy personally and in the relationship, and being able to offer that as this great juicy gift to someone, right? Because it's not everyone that wants to like make a big plan like that or like wants to invest the time and money into things like that. But it really does bring joy to people, especially if they just get to experience it. So for me, it's like I want to pay for the things that bring beauty into the home, joy into our lives, excitement, adventure, like anything that uplifts and makes life more spicy and delicious. So that's how I think about it. But that is a very me thing. Okay, we're moving back into like more tactical here. So what accounts should every single woman have set up right now? Every single woman should have a high yield savings account. End of story, period. And you should have somewhere between 3 to 12 months of expenses in your high yield savings account. Really depends on your lifestyle, but you should have one. You should not have a crappy big box bank. If you can see it on the street corner, it's probably not a good bank to keep your savings. Check your savings rate. If it's not like 3-ish or more percent, get a new bank. You should absolutely have a retirement account. So whether that's a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, your 401k, you should be contributing to that. Abso-fucking-lutely. And if you are already doing that, these are kind of like order of operations. You should also have a brokerage account eventually. A brokerage account is a place where you can invest, but you can take the money out if you need it. Gives you more flexibility, like absolutely. So really it's just those three: high yield savings, a retirement account, and a brokerage account. I think like every single person should have. Next question, how do we stop lifestyle creep when your income goes up? This is actually relatively easy, I think. If you already have a budget and you know kind of what you're saving and what you're spending, or you have a goal for what you're saving and what you're spending, I would just say like split it up. Every time you get a raise or a bonus, like put a certain chunk towards your investments or savings and let yourself spend the rest. I think it's a great goal to save 20% of your income. And then if you get a bonus or a raise, like maybe you do 50% of that one and you blow the rest on mimosas or whatever the fuck else you want. But like each time you get a raise, make sure that like a larger percent than 20% is going towards future you, is getting invested, ideally, in your retirement accounts or brokerage accounts, because that will prevent that lifestyle creep. That means every time your money goes up, more of the money you're getting goes towards retirement and savings than the 20% that you hopefully are reaching. If you haven't reached 20%, if you're only able to save 10%, great. Like maybe you're putting 15 or 20% of a bonus towards future you. I think just whatever your baseline is, you're like eking it up a little bit, because if you only save 10% and then you get a bonus and you save 10%, you're not increasing your savings percent. It's still going to be 10% across the board. So anything more than you would normally do, I think is a great way to do it. And then spend the rest, like fucking enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to lose the intrinsic motivator to like continue actually making more money. So enjoy your money and save for your future. Okay, last question, circling back a little bit on relationship stuff. What does a solid financial foundation look like before bringing a partner into your finances? So yeah, I would say to kind of pick up where we left off with that last question, if you want a definition of financial foundation, I would say you have the savings and you are already investing for your future. So whether that's in an IRA, a 401k, a brokerage account, like if you're at the point where you're able to save consistently, you're spending less than you're making, and you have some savings, like that's a great place to be when you enter a relationship. But like at a bare minimum, that would be a nice way to enter a relationship and will give you freedom and flexibility. Because again, what we don't want is to like get into a relationship, something goes wrong and we can't leave the relationship because we don't have the financial foundation. We don't have the savings. The savings is really important if something goes awry in our relationship or our job. So please, please, please make sure you have that savings. All right. This was actually really fun. I liked doing this. Maybe we'll do this more often. If you have questions, you can always write to us on Instagram or at support@stephanieznos.com and we will answer them on the pod. Okay. See you next time.
Thanks for allowing me to be part of your money journey. If you heard something that made you think in a new way or expanded your views about money today, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a cute little note in the form of a review. See you next time. As always, a quick but important reminder that everything I share here is solely for the purpose of your entertainment, education, and inspiration. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as personal financial, legal, or investment advice. Everyone's financial situation is wildly different, and that's why it's so important that you do your own research and decide what's right for you.